Welcome back to Seriously Funny. I'm your host, Mashnur Kabir, and I'm a retired bully. This week we talk about kindness, and I'm not the nicest guy in the world, so that's all for the intro. Let's get into it. The first thing we're going to do here is define and go into the science of kindness, starting with the definition. Kindness is kindness. I don't know if I really need to sit here and tell you what kindness is. I think at this point, most of us know what kindness is. And if you thought that was what I was going to say, you haven't listened to every other episode of this podcast. I'm going to define kindness. I'm going to define happiness. I'm going to define all of the things. That's what I do. I define words. And I'll tell you why I define kindness at the end of the episode. Kindness is any act that involves you and another being. You can be kind to animals, and according to some people, plants. Kindness is an act in which one being does a thing, an action, giving something, saying words, even listening to someone. That could be enough. Whatever it is, that thing helps the other person or others in the situation by providing some sort of assistance with something. That could be as simple as the gift of a smile when someone's down, or giving money to a homeless dude. Usually, this act will induce positive emotions and feelings within all of the parties, if not in the short term, at least in the long term. For example, if you get stabbed and someone puts pressure on the wound to keep you alive, in the moment when they put pressure on the wound, you will not like them very much at all. You'll probably have some pretty negative feelings toward them in the moment. But later, when you're out of surgery, you'll probably have some positive feelings toward the person that put pressure on your wound. You may even have the heart to thank them for, saving your life. Just a thought. There are going to be very, very few situations in which you're dealing with some super impudent brat that won't be very thankful at what's traditionally seen as an act of kindness. This can be due to a multitude of reasons, ignoring the fact that I just called them an impudent brat. We should also mention intentions and impact are very different things. Kind intentions do not always produce kind impacts. We'll talk more about that in a minute, though. Now that we have an outline of what kindness is, let's go ahead and science the kindness. In a paper with two studies, they have one study with sample size 175 and another study with sample size 119. The correlations they found were that happy people were more motivated to perform and recognize kind behaviors. Happy people and had more happy memories in daily life in both quantity and quality. Their subjective happiness increased by counting their own kindness for a week, and they became more grateful through the counting kindness intervention. If you want to tell me that this isn't about happiness, you're right. This paper is titled, quote, "Happy people become happier through kindness," end quote. So maybe these findings do only apply to happy people. But if we recall the Happiness Advantage overview episode a couple weeks ago, we will remember that one of the principles to be more happy is to commit conscious acts of kindness. The book talked about a study where individuals were told to complete 5 acts of kindness over the course of a day, and they all reported feeling happier than the control group for many subsequent days, even after the exercise was over. Correlation is not causation, yes, but I'm going to pull the anecdotal card and say that I think it's fair to say kindness will uplift your mood. Let's go over some more studies. Another paper talks about loneliness. We talked about loneliness a few weeks ago and found that it was quite detrimental to your mental and physical health. Consequently, pro-social behavior is helpful to your health. This research paper, titled "Kindness as a Stress Reduction Health Promotion Intervention, a Review of Psychobiology of Caring," states, quote, "Kindness and caring are pro-social behaviors that build positive interpersonal connections and can uplift both the giver and receiver. Simply seeing kindness and caring activates the neuropsychology of kindness, elevating the viewer and promoting generosity, interpersonal connection, and inclusion. Augmenting positive emotions, enhancing interpersonal connection, and inducing pro-social behavior change are possible through seeing kindness opens the opportunity to bolster resilience in higher stress settings like healthcare. In a recent study, watching kindness media in a healthcare setting rapidly increased self-reported feelings of happiness, calm, gratitude, and being inspired. Viewers were significantly more generous, end quote. That's a lot of words. Another paper says that there's a positive correlation between the number of kind acts you perform and the happiness you feel. Another says kindness reduces feelings of loneliness. An article published in Springer talks about small benefits to well-being, physical health, mental health, the normal things. If we look into kindness research, at least the little I've looked at, I'm mostly skimming these papers. Sorry, but school is killing me. I don't have the time to read all of these papers through. Some of them are like 20 pages. A lot of research shows that kindness has a small to moderate effect on your health and well-being. It's not a massive it's not as massive as, say, sleep or loneliness or exercise, which we've talked about before, mostly because kindness lends itself to loneliness. Kindness seems to be a mediating factor of loneliness, more so a direct factor on your health. One thing I would argue is that kindness has a massive impact on your sense of self. Scott Plous talks on the episode of The Hidden Brain about how he asked his students to go through, quote, a day of compassion, end quote, where he asked them to be deliberately compassionate for a day and asked them what they experienced and what was it like. A lot of them would come back and report feeling more positive. But not only that, when the students were more kind, they found that other people were also more kind. One of the things we definitely know, I don't have the research papers, you'll just have to dig into your memories for this one. We know that misery loves company. Get mad at someone, jealous, upset, frustrated, annoyed, you're probably not going to get a positive response from them. The cool thing is that the opposite is also true. Kindness creates kindness. We learned about this in the Happiness Advantage overview. Happy people make happy people. Sean called it the ripple effect. Big or small, kindness has a positive impact on your well-being and other aspects of your life, and negativity will have a negative impact. Although the numbers may be small, a positive impact on your life is a better option than a negative impact on your life. Choose kindness. Don't wait for someone to be nice to you. Be the first domino in the line. Although I can talk about kindness and science all day, I'll talk about kindness all day. That's the point of the episode. Talk about science all day. I'm definitely going to go over on this episode. At least I think so. Maybe I won't. So let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. Many episodes ago, we had an episode where we talked about the difference between knowing and understanding. And actually, we can tie this in perfectly with our episode last week where we talked about universal truths. Last week, I told you about how I would learn a lot of things through thought, meditation, and whatnot. And yesterday, I learned that the idea of knowing versus understanding is also something that's been found by yogis hundreds of years ago. Way back, the yogis actually had two words for knowledge, vidya and jnana. So like I was telling you about how I discovered the law of vibration before I'd studied the law of vibration, this idea of knowing and understanding, I didn't find this through reading stuff. I found this through thinking about stuff. It's a philosophy that came into my mind. And little did you know it, just like I said last episode, it seems like some old super dead dudes a few thousand years ago already thought about it way before I did, and I just recreated it. So again, universal truth. Knowing, understanding, these are two different things. So vidya and jnana. Vidya is information. It's objective. It's transmissible. This is knowledge we gain from research papers, from listening to podcasts, from reading books, going to lectures. You can pass this information along. I can tell you that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and you can remember that. And it's true. The other is jnana. This is translated more so into, we'll take a guess. Ready? Yeah, it's understanding. It's subjective knowledge. This is the knowledge that differentiates an addict who continuously relapses and an addict that can one day simply stop indulging the addiction. They can just stop one day. And this is the knowledge that differentiates an enlightened person and someone who studies enlightenment. Yes, I can study and teach you about destroying the ego, throwing away judgment, loving and accepting everything, meditating, all of these things. However, I can never teach anyone, nor can I learn from anyone actual enlightenment. That's knowledge that is found from within. It is the qualia of life. I can describe the taste of an orange, but unless you've tasted an orange, you will never have the jnana. You'll just have the vidya. If you became, when you eat asparagus, for some people, I think I want to say 50% of people, it might be a bit more or less. I think about 50% of people have a gene where if they eat asparagus, their pee smells not good. Their pee smells quite awful. And if you don't have this gene, you won't be able to smell that. So let's say that you're a researcher and you become the leading expert on asparagus pea. Okay, you understand this gene, you memorize the nucleotide sequence, you can look at someone in the eyes and tell them if they have the gene. You become an expert. However, let's say you don't have the gene yourself. In that case, you know everything about this phenomenon from start to finish, every single part of it. You're an expert, and no one can tell you you're wrong. No one can tell you you don't understand or you don't know the topic. But the thing is, if you don't have the gene, you never will understand what it's like. You won't have the qualia. You won't have the understanding. You'll simply know how it works, and you'll have all of the vidya, but none of the jnana. All of the information, but none of the qualia. Coming back to kindness, I talked about how you can teach someone to be kind. For the most part, parents try to teach their children to be kind. A lot of them fail because they don't realize the simple fact that children find it infinitely easier to imitate what you do and not what you say. Anyways, I talked about how you can teach kindness to someone. However, most of the time, that genuine, warm, and extremely palpable kindness that comes really from people that understand kindness. Sometimes people, you meet them, you talk to them, and you just know. They don't say anything, they don't do anything specific, but they're just kind. They're just nice people. And you can feel it come off them. And those are people that understand kindness. And unfortunately, jnana, unlike vidya, is not transmissible. We can do our best, but oftentimes it's not enough. The asparagus pea expert that you are, so I can explain to you and try my best to describe it as much as I want to with all of the words in the dictionary. However, unless you experience it, you don't get it. You won't know until it happens. Going back to addiction, there are addicts who, and I know that how this sounds, but a lot of addicts who that have recovered and have stayed recovered. If you ask them, how did you stop? They'll give you a short explanation, usually something like, quote, I just woke up one day and I realized that I couldn't do this anymore. End quote. A story I've heard from a psychiatrist is that one of his patients, he's an addiction psychiatrist, so one of his patients was addicted to a lot of different things, marijuana, cigarettes, a bunch of different things. And over the course of working with this patient, the psychiatrist and the patient together, they let go of a lot of these addictions. The patient stopped the marijuana, stopped a bunch of things, the drinking, all of this. He got rid of most of it. But there was one thing that he just couldn't get rid of. Every time he always came back to, and it was smoking cigarettes. He stopped the weed, drinking harder drugs, but cigarettes held on to him like the lyrics of Let It Go back in the day. One day, though, when the guy was hiking, the patient, he realized that he was getting quite out of breath. And not only that, but his breath smelled really bad. If you've known a smoker, which I'm sure you have, or you've passed one on the street, it's rough. It's not good. Don't smoke cigarettes. It looks cool, but it's really gross. But that day, after that day, when he was hiking this mountain, he quit. He went after he realized that it was just running him out of breath. There's no massive realization, no massive motivation. He didn't learn about how they're bad for you. He probably knew all about how they were bad for you. He just a light bulb lit up and he realized, and I can't do this anymore. I've had those moments in my life. Maybe you've had them in yours. A moment where you do a bunch of stuff, you do things, and then you at one point think or realize, I can't do this, and this isn't working. Something needs to be different. And a lot of times people find it really hard to change, and they find it really hard to get into, to be different, to change, to work on themselves. A lot of times it doesn't work. You try to change and you go back to old habits or whatever. I mean, New Year's resolutions, right? The problem is, or not the problem. What we know, though, is not what we know. I guess it's nothing to know. The moments that I find the biggest changes in my life are the moments which something bad enough happens, usually, unfortunately for me, in my story, where I realize that what I'm doing, where I am, and just what's going on is not okay. that's not something that can be transmissed. That's not something that can, and it's different for everyone. So if we remember Mike Malak way back on my 5th episode, when I talked about The Fifth Vital by Mike Malak, that book, the day that he gave up everything, all the drugs completely, he stopped doing heroin, everything, he stopped. No relapsing. The day that he went to detox, went to rehab, and he stuck with it, was the day that his correction officer or rehab officer, I don't remember what it was called, said, "Hey, if I find this like in your system one more time, I'm not gonna help you anymore. You're a great kid. I've done my best to help you and whatnot, but I'm gonna send you to jail next time if you don't pass the next test. I just, there's nothing I can do for you anymore." And that was the day for Mike that he realized, wow, okay, well, something flipped in him. It's not even explainable. Like the Tao, you just can't explain it. Different people have different ways of realizing these things, and oftentimes it's not fun. This is another episode. I don't know why I'm still here. Where were we? So I encourage you to be kind. I really do. However, I'm also encouraging you to ask yourself why you should be as kind as you go, or why you should be kind, or why do you do the kind things as you go through with these actions. Should you donate extra money to charity to less fortunate people, or even tip more? Yes. Should you say thank you when other people are kind to you? Smile when you accidentally make eye contact with someone. Be overall amicable when you interact with people. Yes, yes, and yes. While you do these things, though, ask yourself, think to yourself, why do I do this? Some people will think that ruins it. I'm not sitting here and telling you to expect anything. Don't do that. Expectation is the thief of joy. We've learned that over and over, and we've talked about it over and over. If you want kindness and kind actions to bring you better well-being and all the other things we have talked about earlier in the episode, you can't expect anything. You can't want things. The kindness has to be altruistic in nature. We don't do kind things because we get something, at least not explicitly. We'll talk a little bit more about it. But even that's something that you'll understand if you ask yourself why you do kind things. You'll ask yourself when you do something nice, do I expect something back? And you'll realize that if you do expect something back, you'll generally be met with disappointment. It doesn't work. And that doesn't mean kindness doesn't work. That just means the expectation part doesn't work. Don't learn the wrong lesson. You'll generally be met with disappointment. So, okay, kindness is not done because I expect something. Okay, it actually goes a lot better if I don't expect anything. That's what you'll come to. That's the conclusion you'll probably come to. If you want to ask yourself the question, ask yourself the question. Go through it yourself if you want. Ask these questions, explore them, become aware of yourself, your actions, your thoughts. And when you engage in kindness, hopefully one day it'll hit you. And the day it hits you, you'll never have to choose kindness again. You won't be doing kind things. The day it hits you, you will be kind. The last thing I want to mention in this section was that intention and impact are separate things. The way to make sure that your intentions create the impact you want is to be considerate of other people. Think about them. Kindness isn't about you. It's about them. It's about altruism, even though it does help you. No, I'm getting there. Give me a second. Don't be overbearing. Don't be putting your 2 cents where it's not wanted. Don't be a PP. Okay. Think about others. That's where you'll find the most productive kindness for everyone in the situation. And sometimes does kindness mean that in the short term you're going to hurt someone, like we explained with the stabbing example? Yes, it's possible. However, there's a difference between being kind for someone's good and being kind because you think you're being kind when you're not being. And if you can see that you're not being, if it's just making someone uncomfortable or upset and it's not going to change anything for them, well, don't do that. A lot of times it depends on who you are. For example, I talk to people for the first time and I pretend like I've known them for 5 years. I do that and I think I'm generally pretty good at that, so it works out for me. However, for most people, when you meet them, they don't want your advice. That's not what they want. They don't care. They don't know you. Why? Don't give them advice. Don't try to, kindness can come in simple forms and, more in-depth forms depending on how well you know someone. don't try to push too much. Okay, be kind to a limit. Understand where you stand, understand where you are, understand the context of the situation. That's really important for not just kindness, but for everything, and the way you treat people, the way you live, etc., etc. Don't be overbearing. Don't do too much. Try your best to use as much common sense as you have. That's never something that I really like to say. I never say use, and I don't want to say use your common sense, but to one extent, use your common sense. To another extent, if you make a mistake, you can apologize. You can, maybe you've just never interacted with anyone, and or not anyone. You just haven't interacted much with people, like super introverted or something, and you're socially awkward. It happens, and most of the time people understand. If it seems like someone is uncomfortable, first of all, if you know yourself enough to know that you're socially awkward and that you don't understand social cues and stuff, you can tell people when you begin to interact with them, not in like some give me pity sort of way, but just a really simple way. Hey, I don't interact much with people, so if I overstep a boundary or something, I'm not too good at understanding those things. So just let me know, and I'll apologize and whatnot. Not a big deal. It's just I'm not used to it. Like, it's fine to be honest. It's fine. I don't even know if it's being vulnerable. Some people would probably call it being vulnerable, and if you want to say that, I mean, fine, whatever. But I think it's just being human, being honest, and share the things that people need to know. It makes the interaction better for everyone if everyone has more information. Information is everything. That's why I like research and science. Now I'm definitely a little bit over on time. Actually, I'm gonna have to cut a lot of this out. Probably not. I want to quickly, for whoever is still listening, be a bit vulnerable myself while we talk about kindness. At the beginning of the episode, I defined kindness, but I want to quickly, I define kindness. And in a lot of my episodes, I define a lot of really seemingly, quote, common sense, end quote, things. I define things that most people don't need a definition for. And yes, I can claim that in philosophy, the first step to anything, arguments and conversations, is definitions. You define everything. In philosophy, when you're having a philosophical conversation, one of the things you want to do is, well, what does that mean? Well, what's the definition of this? Right? And that's how everyone gets on the same page, the same baseline, same ground. It's a massive part of rhetoric. It is very important to make sure that everyone knows what they're talking about, and you can have a productive conversation and not talk about different things that are irrelated and everyone's yelling at each other for nothing. But another reason is that not everyone knows these things. Kindness is not something that I would have understood if you asked me a few years ago. It was merely a means to an end for me. It was a manipulation tactic to get what I wanted. Kindness was a tool. It wasn't something I did to do. It wasn't an end in itself. It was something I did. As Kant would say, Kant, the philosophy guy, I'm not saying a bad word, the philosophy dude. He said, don't treat people as mere means. And kindness to me was a mere means to treat people as mere means. I wasn't always a great person. In my life, I've played a lot of games, and I don't mean video games. I mean, I've been an absolute and utter jerk. I've been very mean for many years of my life, multiple years of my life. I spent a year and some change being less of a jerk. I was way neutral. I wasn't exactly mean or nice either way. I didn't really care about nice or not nice. I just went through the motions. And then I spent a few years actively trying to be kind, like actively being nice and actively sacrificing things for other people. I played all these games. I tried them all for other people. I gave them my time. I gave them my energy, my thought for other people for a few years. And although I wouldn't recommend the extent to which I played the nice person game for those, I think it would be 3 to 4 years. I can tell you, as someone who has been a jerk, as someone who has been gray, and as someone who has tried to spread only positivity, kindness, compassion, sympathy, these things will bring you exponentially outcomes into your life. Positivity, kindness, compassion, sympathy, these things will just make your life better. When I use these things, when I use these tools, rather than simply you manipulating or whatnot, I was treated much better. Even my quote unquote luck improved. I found more opportunities and I ended up getting what I wanted without ever having to fake the kindness. The only difference was that now everyone was winning, not just me. And the thing is, even if you're really good at manipulating people, people tend to just not like you after a certain amount of time. I mean, I was pretty good at it, but even then, there was a number of people that wouldn't be a fan of me, and mostly because, I mean, I was good at it, and so I usually did get what I wanted from people. However, when people didn't have anything to give me, at least in the moment, I would treat them like garbage, like complete garbage, and so they didn't like me very much. And then I could, you can play with people's heartstrings again to get what you want if you need them later. And I mean, that's one of the reasons I learned throwing people away is not a great idea. But anyways, that's personal experience. Don't be a bad person. I've tried it. Here's the thing with kindness, okay? Let's throw all of the research papers away for a second, and let's talk about the simple reason that you should be kind. It makes you feel good, right? If you donate to a charity, give money to a homeless person, do something nice, whatever it may be, pick up grandma's groceries and help her load it in her car. If you have a lot of money, pay for someone's coffee in line behind you or whatever. You can, it makes you feel good, right? You feel good about yourself. Some people might tell you not to let that be your motivation. Some nihilists are out there, not nihilists. What's it called? There's this, what's the name for someone who doesn't believe in altruism? It's not a nihilist. It's not a pessimist. It's something. I don't have my keyboard in front of me. My keyboard is behind me because I don't have enough space on my desk. Let's look it up. Let's look it up. The word for someone that doesn't believe in altruism. Egocentric. Yeah, that's not what I'm thinking about. Okay, we're giving up on that. God dang it, very sad. I haven't used the word in a long. Maybe it really is just pessimist. Was it pessimist? I've used this word before. I claimed myself to be one of them. I don't remember, man. Now I'm sad. Now I'm going to be thinking about that for the rest of the day until it comes to my mind. Maybe while I'm editing, it'll come to mind and you'll see it pop up on the screen if you're watching the video version. Where were we? Okay. Some people might tell you that not to let this be your motivation, not to, you shouldn't do things just because you want to feel good about yourself. But as I said a few moments ago, ask yourself about it. When you do nice things and you feel positive, feelings bubble up inside you. Be aware of it and think about it and question it. I don't want to smash on this feeling. I'll call it altruistic rebound, this idea of feeling good about yourself when you help someone. Actually, when I was trying to Google what the word was, I found this thing that it said, it was a TED Talk. And the TED Talk was titled something. I already forgot it. I literally saw it two seconds ago, and I already forgot it. The TED Talk was titled something like "Altruism is selfish, and that's fine." And I think that's fine. I don't want to smash on this altruistic rebound. It's actually incredible when you think about it. It's not a bad thing. There's a lot of people sitting there being super effing. There's a lot of people sitting there being super pessimistic and super upset and saying, oh, altruism doesn't exist because people feel good about themselves, and so you're always just doing it to feel good about whatever. Honestly, that's dumb. I don't agree with that. I just don't think that it exists in every condition because what is it? There are some people, I can't remember their names right now, but there are a number of people who have died saving lives. They don't exactly feel too good about themselves because, well, they're dead. They can't. So they saved a bunch of lives, and then they died. So that's pretty altruistic to me. You're not getting a reward because you're dead. So people like that, heroes we tend to call them. What did they gain? They gained nothing. They had no moment to feel good about themselves. They had no chance to feel good about themselves. The last thing they felt was probably fear, not good. And that's altruistic to me. But in general, we're not dealing with life or death situations. We're just donating to homeless people, okay? And this altruistic rebound it's a built-in reward circuit to reward you for doing kind things. Your body and brain naturally and nearly feel good when you do good things. That's awesome. That means that your brain was wired to feel good about doing good things. That means you doing good things is great. It feels nice. Okay. Now, for some of us, life sucks, and because of life genetics, I don't know, trauma. Not everyone feels good when they do good. And I'm one of those people. This sucks. In all the years that I've spent helping people, and when I say helping people, I mean quite literally, I have saved lives. I haven't died doing so, of course. I'm here. But there are people that are alive today because I existed. And I can say that for a fact. I've changed lives as well. If I didn't save them, at the very least, I did change some lives. And although these things, of course, they don't make me feel bad, right? I never did, and I still don't, when I think about it, feel any internal sense of, wow, I feel great for doing this. If it sucks, right? I don't have any internal wiring that makes me feel good when I help people. Quite the opposite, actually. It's not fun, right? So when I do something altruistic, if I do the things I mentioned, I always, if I have my wallet on me, I usually have some sort of cash. I don't use cash too much, but if it's there, if it's on me, I'm going to give it to a homeless person if I see him. I live in an area where it's not too much of an issue, so I don't see him very often. But if I ever travel and I see one or two, yeah, I don't mind. Whatever, it's fine. Especially if some of them ask, it's like, okay, yeah, whatever. What do I have to lose? I'm a college engineering student, right? If I do get an engineering job, the few dollars I give you right now, I'll be fine. Okay, I'll be okay. And when I do these things, and I do them pretty often, I make the choice to be kind a lot. I don't feel anything. I do not feel good about myself. I don't feel bad about myself. Okay, not at all. I just don't. It's not a good or a bad thing. It's just a thing. I just do it, and I don't feel either way. A lot of the times, to be completely honest, one of the reasons that I admittedly that I do so many quote unquote good things is because I wonder, will this be the moment where I feel good about myself? Like, is it just because I don't focus on it? Do I not realize it? Do I not realize I feel? And so a lot of times I'm kind of chasing the feeling of one day maybe feeling good about myself when I do something good. So far it hasn't happened. I really try, and I'm going to continue to. Also, I completely forgot to mention in the script. As of now in my life, I'm not sitting here and trying to go around and save lives and whatnot. I think that's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. I don't feel stressed, so I can't say it's stressful, but for most people it would be stressful, and it's really rough. It's not a great time, and I'm so busy with podcast, YouTube, school, mostly school. I'm so busy with that. I really just don't have the time to do that. So of course positivity is definitely on the forefront of my mind. I'm not sitting there being a jerk anymore. I don't do that, but I have mellowed out a lot. I'm not sitting there and just trying to be nice. I just be nice as the world requires it. Most of the time I'm not very serious. I just make dumb jokes most of the time. This podcast, I'm thinking about renaming the podcast, by the way. Maybe that'll happen. Whatever. If by chance you're someone like this, someone like me, who you don't really feel good when you do good things, I feel you completely if that's you, right? Doing nice things is quite literally an act of altruism for people such as myself. And if you're out there like you, it really is completely altruistic. We don't get anything usually. Sometimes if we know the person and we do something kind, yes, they're going to, quote, owe us a favor, end quote. And not in terms of manipulation, but just as a human being, we tend to like doing things for people that have done things for us. So if you know the person, great. If you don't know the person and you're being kind to a stranger, yeah, you're literally getting nothing. You're wasting your money. You're wasting your time. You're giving something. You're not wasting. You're losing your money. You're losing your time. Wasting was not the correct word. You're losing these things and you're getting nothing in return whatsoever. If you believe in God, I guess you could say you're getting something in return, heaven or whatnot. If you don't believe in God, yeah, literally nothing. 0% return. Other than telling people later that you did good things, which I don't like to do that. I don't do that. It's just not worth it. I feel you. It's rough. And you do things, a lot of times you will get absolutely nothing in return. Sometimes not even a thank you. It's rough. However, like I said, your life, your luck, overall, it will improve. You attract like energy to yourself. If you put positive energy out into the world, whether you feel good about yourself or not, if it's not an internal reaction, hopefully, at least I would attest to the fact that the universe will bring that positivity back to you in some way, shape, or form or another. And so choose positivity and choose kindness. Your life, everything will improve. The consequences of your positive actions will be great. There's better consequences overall, really. I can't instill you with understanding. I can't teach you what it's like to touch a hot stove, but what I can do is encourage you to heed my words. Humans learn from mistakes, but no one said they had to be ours. I played the angry game, the mean game, the pee-pee game. I implore you to choose kindness. I want you to understand why you should be kind, not understanding the futility and negativity behind being unkind, not by touching the hot stove. That's all for this episode of Seriously Funny. I'm watching Code Geass. It's an 11 out of 10 so far. No new music at the moment. Caught up to Legend of the Northern Blade. 12 out of 10. I will talk at you next week. I'm at 43 minutes. Good God. Much love. Positivity on top of the world. Peace.